Hey everyone, you're listening to the Simple Electronics podcast. I'm your host, Dan from the Simple Electronics YouTube channel. And with me today, I've got a very special guest, Kent from the Pileofstuff YouTube channel. How are you, Kent?
Hi, good. How's it going in your part of the world?
It's going. We were supposed to have thunderstorms today, but it was sunny and 28 degrees Celsius. So pretty nice. How about you?
Oh man, it has not stopped raining. Well, no, it stopped snowing and then it's been raining and just hasn't stopped. It's I'd like it to stop one of these days so I can mow the lawn without hip waders.
We had a long time with no sun, and then all of a sudden today, like literally last night, it said that today was going to be thunderstorms, and then this morning it switched to just cloudy periods, and we went and enjoyed a beautiful day. But it was only 5 degrees this morning, and then it climbed to 28 degrees by like 4 p.m. So it was a big shift in temperature.
I'll take that. It's supposed to be like 0 to +1 overnight the next couple of nights here.
0? Oh no. Wow.
Sunny Manitoba.
Yeah, no kidding. So I got to ask, because we're getting started, are you being joined by Grandpa's Sweater Oatmeal Stout?
Not tonight. I'm on call this week, so I've got my nice warm mug with me here.
So we've actually, we talked a little bit off of YouTube, and you've been on call for like the last, well, maybe not on call, but you've been doing ridiculous hours for the last little while. What's going on? Are they are not enough people getting the shot, so the 5G is not penetrating? What's the deal?
No, two CEOs back decided that it would be profitable for him if he reduced the staffing by a whole bunch, and the workload didn't reduce.
So now you're the poor sap that has to pick up all the slack, or at least one of the poor saps.
Yeah, we finally hired one more guy, so it's going to get less bad, but it's going to get busy through the summer. So whatever, that's work. Hopefully it doesn't mess with my YouTube schedule too badly, but if I miss a week, sorry folks.
So far, so good though, because you've been actually quite consistent on your output.
Yeah, I've tried to hit every week for at least 5 years. I think it is now. I think my first video was about 6 years ago, and yeah, I've been for the last 5 or so. I've been trying to hit every Friday and every second Monday for the Mailbag Mondays.
Yeah, the Mailbag Mondays have been quite interesting. Are you so? I see there's quite a bit of like randomness in your parts, and with Gadget Reboot a couple of weeks ago, I have noticed that he's building up to something. Are all these random parts building up to something, or are you just sort of still following your whims and whatever's cheap?
Yeah, no, it's mostly whatever looks really interesting when I happen to be wandering through eBay or Banggood or AliExpress or whatever at the middle of the night and I'm bored. There, a lot of it is based on, oh, that's cool, I should play with that someday, and the rest of it is, oh yeah, that could be useful if I'm repairing something or I had a need for that part or something like that. So it's a little bit of building up stock that might actually be useful for repairing stuff, and a little bit of maybe this will work in a project, and a little bit of, well, that's cool and silly and cheap, I'll buy it and take it apart and just see what's going on inside it just for amusement.
I mean, fair enough. I've seen. I mean, you got parts for your 3D printer,
Yep.
which
And those, are going to come in handy eventually. I've already burned through one fan, so I've got some more spare fans, I've got spare nozzles, and just all the wear parts and the occasional upgrade part that I may or may not add on, depending on whether it's worth it or not.
yeah, I've got spare parts for my stuff, but also, I mean, I am building a custom 3D printer, so I have extra parts galore anyways. So there's that. Considering that printer is probably, never going to get built if I don't get off my butt and spend some time in Fusion. But that's kind of the choice I made. It kind of
Are
is what it is.
Yeah. Are you following somebody else's design, or are you going freelance on this one?
Oh, I'm going full on my own designs. Everything is my own design. And I'm sort of regretting it because it's a lot of work. Like especially when it takes something like I don't know, let's say 3 hours to design a part, and then another couple hours or overnight to print it, and then to see that it doesn't fit or it doesn't fit the way I wanted it to, and then you have to iterate the design and so on. So it's a slow process, and I think I'm making a mistake by not making videos of those processes, which I really should be. But yeah.
I'm sure you can capture enough of the iteration process that we can extrapolate the rest of it from a shot of the pile of didn't quite work parts.
Oh, and that's another thing I want to make a video on. So I have a box, probably a foot by 6 inches or so, filled with iterative parts from the snowspeeder and the 3D printer project. And I've got that hot plate. I don't know if you remember, but I think I'm going to go get a silicone piece of bakeware and see if I can remelt the PLA into sheets and then feed the sheets through a CNC to like cut out some stuff. I'm not sure if it'll work, but
Well, there are several channels that have done similar things with what is it, milk jugs? I think plastic milk jugs, whatever that thermoplastic is, melted them down, flattened them out, and turned them into blocks for raw material for other projects. So I assume you should be able to do that with PLA as well.
I think milk jugs are. I'm just looking it up really quick, but I think it's PETG.
Possibly,
Um,
yeah.
oh,
I'm
sorry,
H,
HDPE.
HDPE, yeah. So it's a relatively low temperature thermoplastic, I think. And what they've shown in some of their projects is it works pretty well. Once we've got it into blocks, it works pretty well with woodworking tools. So
Are, do you have milk jugs over where you live? Because for our American listeners,
all
most
right, yeah.
Canadians don't have jugs.
Incorrect. That's an Ontario thing.
No, no, no,
Uh,
no,
we can
no.
we can get them, but they're like 1/20th of the milk display at the store.
Sorry, jugs or
Oh,
bags?
bags. Sorry, yeah. No, bags are very much an Ontario thing. Like I said, we can get bagged milk out here, but it's pretty rare.
Okay, so we need to bring this back for our Americans that are just losing their absolute minds right now.
I
So
like
milk
confusing
jugs
Americans.
in most, you know, I think even when I went to the Maritimes, they still had bags, and I heard BC uses bags. But anyways, doesn't matter. So instead of buying a jug of milk, which I think is 3.8 liters or something like that.
Yeah, just shy of 4 liters. Yeah.
Yeah. So we get them in like a bag. It's almost like a grocery bag with a bread tie on the top that holds 3 pouches that are each 1 1/3 liters. And there's a special milk bag holder, like a jug with an open top, and a special slicer that you slice the corner of, and then you pour it out like that. So look up milk bags if you don't know what I'm talking about. And it's such an identity that my wife, her streaming channel is all based around these milk bags. So she has emoticons. She has her custom emotes that she made, and one of them is a milk bag. So it's pretty funny.
Yeah, that's interesting. I do remember them from when I was a kid, and we had that same jug as well. But yeah, in the West, it's not really much of a thing for
But I
whatever
mean,
reason.
yeah. To be fair, though, the West is not a representative population of Canada. It's like, you guys maybe got like a tenth of the population of Canada in all the Western provinces or something like that.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, you get to find out when the political decisions exclude you guys. Unfortunately, that
Yeah,
I don't agree with.
yeah. Basically, by the time the polls are closed in Manitoba, it's already decided.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
But
for
let's
those
not
of
be political.
true, but for those of you who don't know, like most of the population of Canada, is like really close to the US border, and the highest concentration is like on the far west coast. And then what we call central Canada, which is actually really eastern, because technically Kent lives in central,
Yep.
geographical central Canada. But yeah, Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, Quebec City, those kind of areas are where most of the population of Canada live.
Yeah,
So that's why.
there's a big sign on the highway about 20 kilometers east of here that says geographical center of Canada.
Yeah, there we go. So I was right in my guesstimate,
Yep.
basically.
Yep.
And so I don't know quite where you live, but I know the next province west of you, you can watch your dog run away from you for 3 days because it's flat.
It's pretty flat here too. There was a guy from work just here from Ontario last week, and he was commenting about it every time he talked to anybody, just how flat it was.
And the worst part is, to get from where I am to where you are, it's like the most hilly drive you'll ever see unless you go like into the Rockies. And so you spend literally 10 hours going up and down and up and down and up and down, and then you cross the border into Manitoba and then nothing.
Flat, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
insane.
you wouldn't want to do that drive more than once too. It's that's a I think Winnipeg to Ottawa is probably 20 plus hours,
Yes.
and yeah, there's not a straight piece of road in there.
No. And there's areas where, depending on the time of year, you have just about enough fuel to make it between gas stations. It's pretty ridiculous.
Yep, you don't want to do that drive in the dark, that's for sure.
No. So, let me know, what have you been up to electronics wise? What has been tickling your fancy? Any big projects in the
Hmm.
works?
I tend to steer away from big projects, partly because of the weekly video thing, partly because of how stupidly hectic my work schedule is. I've got something sitting on my workbench right now, and I'm not sure when this podcast is coming out, but I've just tinkering with some NeoPixel style LEDs and 3D printing some custom housings for them, just for my own amusement, not because it's practical or anything, but just because I'm having fun with it.
This will come out second week of June. For full transparency, we're recording this the 20th of May.
Ah, okay. So if this works out properly, I found on Thingiverse some 3D printable 1/12 scale stage lights.
Oh yeah, I've seen
Yes,
you.
yes,
Yeah, okay.
there was one in the corner of a video a few weeks ago. Yeah, that I didn't draw any attention to, so I was just wondering if anybody mentioned it. But yeah, so I've printed off a few of those, and I'm tinkering with different different lights to put in them, different LEDs to put in them. They're not going to project a whole bunch of light, but that's not the point. I'm just playing and amusing myself. So
I've got version 2. Basically, my viewers will have seen this video by the time this podcast goes live, but I've got version 2 of my high CRI LED panels, and I went a little nuts on the density. And so if you actually needed some fill lights for your your set or whatever, these panels would be ideal. They're tiny. They're about I don't know, about 10 centimeters, less than 10 by 10, basically. And they have 24 LEDs on them, being run really softly. So,
okay,
like,
yeah, no, these aren't even for that practical use. They are literally just because I used to do lights and sound for bar bands, and I saw these and I had to have them. That's they're not going to cast enough light to be noticeable on the screen at all, which is part of the problem with the video that I'm going to make, I think, because they'll be hard to show off.
you'll have to just turn off your LEDs. Are your
Yeah,
overheads on a dimmer, or are they just on off?
they're just plug and unplug.
Okay,
You know,
fair enough.
they're binary.
Yeah, makes sense. But you could rig them to your power supply and just current limit them for
Oh
the
yeah,
video.
yeah. Oh, I've got enough other light around here. I'm sure I can manage. But it's just going to be a bit of a trick showing it the way I see it in real life too.
I thought for sure when I saw the 3D printable thing that you had on the side of your bench there, I thought for sure you would do a DMX video with those, because that would be ideal to show off, 8 channels of DMX or whatever. But I guess the circuit boards will become kind of big, right?
Yeah, the problem with the DMX decoding is you need a microcontroller on board each one. And I don't know if an AT Tiny can do it. It would fit inside there, but I'd still also need then some sort of a transistor to act as a current driver. Probably times 3 if I'm going to use an RGB LEDs. And there's not a lot of room inside the back of those LED or those 3D printed lights.
Well, if you need someone to contract out a KiCad design, hit me up.
Yeah, I was thinking about that actually, but it's just even the physical chips and the transistors and just the devices. I don't know if it'd fit in there. I don't know. It's I could always do a second project. Again, what I'm probably going to do for this video, because I'm on call and I don't want to go too deep into making a video while I'm on call, just in case I have to, go halfway across the province and fix something. It's probably not going to be that deep. It's just going to be a, hey, look, aren't these cool? Sort of a video. We'll see. Well, I guess people will have already seen it by the time they hear this. Whatever.
Here's hoping.
Yeah.
Is there any plans to add some sort of servo motion so that they can be like, searchlights, or you know what I mean?
I have thought about that, and there are a couple of 3D printable designs for that already, with the servo motor taken into account in the design. I may go there, and I think those ones do have a basis big enough to put maybe a nano in, maybe a pro micro, something like that.
Oh boy, that's actually kind of big.
So they could be DMXable. I don't know. We'll have to see where my whims take me.
I actually hope you have something powerful enough that you can like summon extra light, and then these light beams come right to the middle of your shot. That would be awesome.
I think I'd have to print a whole bunch of these. I do have some of the 1 watt and 3 watt LEDs. I'm just concerned I don't want to melt the 3D printed housing.
Yeah, that's very true. Well,
that's the other thing. Throwing too much light at these things is going to cause problems that way. But again, I think initially it's just going to be a hey, ain't this cool kind of a video. So.
Oh yeah, and for sure those are great. It's just the iterative videos means that you get to touch the same subject, have more fun and more content.
Yeah, and I'll probably revisit it, when the mood strikes, not immediately. Put it on the shelf for 6 months or a year, and then come back to it or something like that. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
It all depends on how the mood strikes me. That's really how I plan my videos. Just, well, what do I feel like doing today? It's not a scientific process. It's not following any of the YouTuber gurus' best practices. I'm sure most people who have spent a lot of time on YouTube will notice that I'm not following a lot of the best practices.
Which I find ironic, because you're the one perpetrating these best practices on the YouTuber subreddit.
Now, just because I know what they are doesn't mean I feel like following them all the time, and not all of them either. Right?
So
for editing, I tend to stick to the expert advice and try and keep it short and snappy, and try and be a little bit artistic, but I'm not doing art videos, so I don't feel the need to go that deep into it. But yeah, I'm trying to do it on the cheap and have fun with it. And there are a lot of things that are YouTube best practices that you'll see on all the big popular channels, maybe not in the electronics world, but on the like general audience popular channels. But a lot of those things annoy me when I see somebody else doing them. So I don't want to do that to my audience.
Which things specifically? Because I was just thinking that Electro Boom pretty much hits every one of those best practices, and his videos are awesome.
Yeah, and a lot of that he's doing tongue in cheek too.
Very, very true. I do agree with that. But like
Yeah.
he does have a lot of the editing tricks. He has jokes, practical effects, all sorts
Oh
of
yeah.
things.
Yeah, I couldn't keep up that pace, I don't think. No, I'm talking about things like mid-roll ads. I hate mid-roll ads, so I don't do them. Yeah, I'm leaving money on the table. I don't care. This is a hobby. Um, things like hammering on the smash that like button, subscribe, click on all the things. No. Um, the only time I even mention Patreon or any of those things is as a thank you in the mailbag videos. But I don't push any of that stuff. I don't hammer on it at all because it it doesn't feel right to me to be doing it. The same as the cliche intro. Hey, it's your boy with another video. It's like, no, ain't gonna do that. I feel dirty even just saying it right now.
You have your own cliche though, because you have your tasting notes, right?
Yep,
It's
yep, yep.
different. Obviously, it's different.
Yeah.
Um, but but yeah,
And
it's pretty interesting. Um,
and that's the other thing too. I mean, as a best practice, you're not supposed to have a 20-second intro, but I don't see that as an intro to the video so much as just a separate little featurette, the supporting feature before the main feature, sort of thing.
yeah, that one is definitely very pile of stuff esque. It's
Yeah,
very much your brand. I think if you stopped it, you'd get more hate than than continuing it for sure.
I think I'd confuse people. Yeah, I get the occasional teetotaler who yells at me in the comments, but they're missing the point.
I don't hear that term very often, teetotaler. This just shows you how much of an intellectual you are.
Or I'm old because I don't think that's a modern term.
Oh, that's possible too. But for those listening at home, a teetotaler is someone who refuses pretty much every drug. I mean, a hardcore teetotaler would avoid caffeine as well. But
And would tell everybody else to. That's the that's the annoying part. Otherwise, I wouldn't. I don't care what other people drink. Just don't tell me what to do.
not all of those stereotypes are true, okay? Because you haven't told anyone that you're on Linux yet.
Oh, sure, I have many times.
But not in this podcast.
Not in this podcast. Yeah. And hey, if you want to wear Bill Gates' handcuffs, go right ahead. It doesn't bother me.
I mean, we can talk off stream to tell you why I don't have Bill Gates' handcuffs, but on stream, yeah, you're right. You're right. You know what? If Linux worked really well for gaming, I'd be in, and it's getting better and better and better. So at some point, I will probably switch to Linux. I have to
Yeah.
say it.
Unfortunately, despite his best efforts, I think Linus Sebastian set back Linux gaming adoption a little bit, but it is coming, and I think Steam is doing a pretty good job of moving it forward.
Oh, I agree. I definitely agree. If I could afford it, I would have a Steam Deck. I can't lie. I think it's getting a lot better. But I think the problem is that I don't have, like, basically gaming is my escape, and if I have to mess with something to get it to work, I just it's not
Yeah,
it's not worth it.
yeah, and I don't spend a lot of time gaming myself anymore. I used to. That was about half the time on my first computer, which was an Apple II Plus, by the way, that I bought new.
Oh boy.
Yes, I'm old.
But like, for example, I mean, you spend time with your wife and kids, right? You guys took a vacation. No, not this year because you got a
Not
garage.
Yeah, not for a couple of years. Yeah, the summer before COVID happened. Yeah, we took a vacation up to the up to a resort sort of north of here on the lakefront, and it was really nice to get away and just sit there with your feet in the sand.
Yeah. So my wife and I, when we spend time together, that we're playing video games, and that's why
Yeah,
gaming is important to me, because that is spending time with my wife. So yeah.
yeah. What? Yeah. While we're having this conversation, my wife's upstairs watching the hockey game actually right now.
Oh, who's playing? I wasn't paying attention to it, but Edmonton, right?
Is this? Yeah, I think tonight's an Edmonton Calgary game. Um, People can look back in the history and see what's going on with that.
Yeah, I don't think the Sens are in the playoff this year. I don't know. I wasn't paying it. I honestly don't follow. People will be surprised to know that me as a Canadian, I couldn't give two craps about hockey. I
Yeah.
honestly doesn't. It's not for me.
I watch it out of the corner of my eye when she's watching, and if I can get tickets from work, I'll go. But yeah, it's not my highest priority. But I don't mind it. I played as a kid for a while. It's something to do.
Who's your team?
Oh, the Jets, obviously, because I
Uh,
literally I work within walking distance of their arena, so
ah,
it's pretty easy. And work has tickets occasionally, really good tickets, uh, so it's easy to cheer for them.
my mom used to work for Bell, and Bell had a box here at I think it's called the Canadian Tire Center now. But they had a box, and they would give tickets to the staff quite often. And so my parents have gone to see the Sens in a fancy box more than once. That's for sure.
Yeah, those don't leave the sales department down to us plebs, but the the normal seats we can get occasionally, which is it's a nice perk.
I think
Every job's got some kind of perk like that. You'd think. Well, maybe not every job, but
not my job. My God, we didn't even have a Christmas party for let's just say there was about 20 years of no Christmas party because the owner got insulted once by a drunk employee. So 20 years he took it out on the entire company, and then he did it once, and then he sold the company. So now our current ownership, they don't even know your name. Like they don't know. Like they'll cross you in the parking lot and be like, "Who the hell are you?" That kind
yeah.
of hands
Uh,
off.
as my company's been getting bigger, it's been more and more like that. But the local team is pretty tight knit, even from different departments. It's still really nice. But yeah, the overall company, somebody from another department from Toronto has no idea that my department in Winnipeg even exists.
They probably, if they're in Toronto, they don't know where Winnipeg is.
Most of them.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. What's the population of Winnipeg? Do you know?
About 900K.
Oh, that's the size of Ottawa. Ottawa's
Yeah.
like 1 to 1.1 mil, or something like that.
Yeah, plus or minus, anyways. Yeah, it's pretty close to that. It's a very stable population, very slow growing. Um, but we don't boom and bust. Everything happens very slowly and stably, which is yeah, it's kind of nice.
That is
Um,
nice.
it's not the boom and bust that Alberta gets, for instance, or like the fishing communities on the East Coast, for instance.
Does anybody in your immediate vicinity know that you do YouTube?
Oh yeah, yeah. All the guys that I work with on my team know, and I mean, several guys who I work with in other cities know as well. A couple of them, the first ones actually, they just approached me. It's like, hey, I was wandering around YouTube and I found this channel, and the guy sounds a lot like you. It's like, oh yeah, that's probably because it is me.
I'm slowly piecing together what you look like by the various reflections of beard in the back of your head and stuff like that. I think, I mean, I feel like and I don't want to speak for you, but I feel like we're slowly becoming friends. And so at some point, I feel like it's going to be inevitable. We're going to meet somewhere, but I'm trying to build a mental picture of what you look like.
My best guess is we'd probably stumble across each other at a maker fair somewhere.
Probably.
That would seem to be the best bet. Unfortunately, there aren't any around here. I think the closest one is Edmonton, and it's a really small one-day event that's attached to a larger event. I suppose I could go to Minneapolis, but then I'd have to cross that border thing, and I'm not really into that right now.
Yeah, I'm not ready to cross no borders. Um,
Um,
yeah, I was supposed to go to one on Saturday the 14th, but it was last minute. Basically, it was canceled or well rescheduled to July at some point. So I will be going, but it'll be in July.
Yeah, I've noticed that several of them have been rescheduled or canceled or whatever. There's two or three that I've heard some people online talking about in Germany that were going to happen for the first time in 3 years and then canceled in the last week or so. So yeah, I think a lot of people are still just a little leery to be in crowds yet.
I think there's too much of both sides. I think there's a lot of people like you're saying that are leery of being in crowds, and I'm one of them. I'll openly admit, because we're almost, well, by the time you guys are listening to this, it's 6 months since I got COVID, and I'm still messed up. At this point, so I don't wish it on anyone. But this one was an outdoor event, so I was okay with going. And then there's too many people on the other side too, which don't care now and never cared about the restrictions. And I think it's because of both those groups of people that these events are getting canceled for very different reasons.
Entirely possible, yeah. And just from our hobby world, part shortages, chip shortages, material shortages, and prices are going through the roof on this stuff. I mean, it's still cheap compared to when I was young and the only place I got my components was Radio Shack. But I think that's combining with it as well.
Oh, definitely. And I'm basically the only reason I'm still able to buy parts is because they're parts for sponsored projects, because I need to do those sponsored projects to survive. And I need those parts to do those sponsored projects, or at least to have interesting enough sponsored projects that people actually want to watch, because that still is my number one goal, believe it or not. So I guess
Yeah.
I'm really grateful for that sponsorship.
Yeah, and I mean the price of these things is impacting some of the choices I make for purchases for the mailbags, but fortunately, with the generosity of my Patreons and YouTube channel members and all that kind of stuff, I can actually still afford to go randomly wandering around around eBay and finding silly things to throw in the mailbag and useful things as well. So it's not hitting me as hard as it would some people who are just doing it purely for a hobby, like just assembling projects purely for a hobby.
Yeah, and to be honest, I could probably keep costs down by just using parts that I have here, but it's the unfortunate thing that I build a project around like one or two parts that I have here, and then I run out of the supporting parts, so I have to like order those parts. And
Yep.
then there's nothing that stings more than buying 100 resistors, whatever, for like 60 some cents, but then you get hit with $4 of shipping, so then you got to order more resistors to make it worth it, right? And then it becomes a whole thing.
Yeah, it's free shipping seems to have all but died out unless you got somebody who's selling at a loss leader or something like that. But I still filter for free shipping when I'm searching. Occasionally I'll find a gem, but not very often these days.
I have to say eBay is way better for that than AliExpress. And the reason I
Yep.
shop at AliExpress though is that I get to pick the shipping provider and get one with tracking. So it's like, it's difficult to balance what I want versus what I need sometimes.
Yeah, that is always something to keep in mind for sure.
So what, like looking back at your last couple mailbags, what's the most exciting thing that you received that you're gonna eventually play with? Do you have anything like that in mind?
Hmm. Yeah, after 340 of the, 100 and, what is it, 130, 140 of them, it's starting to blur together a little bit. I'm having to come down and search around my shop before I order things just to make sure I'm not ordering something that I thought was cool 6 months ago and oh, it's cool today too. Um, what, what?
While you're thinking of that, I could name a couple of the things. Like you got that 12-volt power supply, the AC to DC power supply.
Already used it.
Oh, did you? It's already up on the
Yeah,
handling your lighting.
yeah, they were flickering on me too much, and I had to change that out. It was just getting annoying. I thought of
Okay.
making a video about it, but it's literally 4 screw terminals. I didn't think I could make a video out of that.
True, true. You got a reel of LEDs on the last one.
Yeah, that's just for my workbench lighting, and I've done that video twice already. I'm not sure if I want to do a third one of that, but yeah, that's I mean that's I don't know. Does it make sense to keep going back to the same or to like revision 4 of the same project? I'm not sure. Some channels have done it and done it successfully. I'm not sure how I feel on it yet. I may just do that one off camera, um, or I'm still chatting with the various sponsors to see if they can send me some interesting things. So I might try and just get some actual real studio lights rather than these homemade hack together ones. I don't know yet.
I
Um,
have done that. I've
yeah,
bought well, I've bought my own studio lights. I don't think I've told anyone but my patrons about it. But basically, affiliate money came in on Amazon. I got some newer
yeah,
studio lights, but the problem is I shoot DSLR, which means there's a big sensor, which means that there's a very shallow depth of field. So I need to throw so much light at the problem in order to get, at least film at like f8 or whatever, that it's like they're not enough. They need to be even bigger, which is why I've been experimenting with all these LED panels, basically.
yeah. Newer seems to be a good brand in cheap video stuff. That's what my I've got 2 small lights. What are they? I can't remember now. They're just little ones. They're size of a hockey puck. I've just got the 2 of them off to the side acting as fill light right now, and I really like them. I wish they had bigger batteries in them, but I can still run them plugged in.
For
And
the viewers at home, they're the newer VL49S.
thank you. Do you want to put my affiliate link down? No, no, no,
Yeah,
no,
I'll put your
no,
affiliate link.
no, don't.
These
That is
podcasts are not
unnecessary.
about me. They're not about me. They're about the guest. So, guys, click the affiliate link in the description. And if you buy anything after clicking that link, as long as you don't use an add-on like Honey, Pileofstuff will get a little bit of money from you. And it is a
Or
little bit.
it is a real little bit, and it's not going to change my life one way or another. So don't feel obliged or anything. But
It'll change my life. It'll make me happy.
there you go. All right, do it for him.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? And if you make a decent amount of money off clicks off this podcast, then I want you to buy some special beer, and I want some tasting notes. How about that?
Alrighty, that's what we'll have to do. We'll have to meet somewhere at a brew pub halfway between.
At some point, the wife and I are going to head to the West Coast by car. Probably, if I haven't sold it yet because I'm broke as a joke, probably in the CRX. And
Yeah.
so if we're driving by your town, which we kind of have to if we're going west and not using the US route,
Yep.
then we'll go for dinner, and probably not beer because I'll be driving.
I'm assuming that'll be sometime after the gas prices get back to sanity.
Nah, it's a CRX. It burns more oil than gas.
Perfect.
It's literally a 1,500-pound car, and for our British people, that's weight, not money.
Yeah.
It weighs absolutely nothing. This little tiny thing.
Yeah, as long as you're not playing with the moose in northern Ontario on the roads.
Oh God, no! I hope not, because I will die. The moose, for those of you who don't know, are like 2,000 pounds.
Oh, they're well over a ton, yeah, and they win in any argument with pretty much any vehicle. They even mess up semis.
Yeah, and they're also known if they don't die on impact, which they often don't because they're very top heavy. They get up and they will charge at your wrecked car because they think that you're
Yeah,
challenging them for dominance.
yeah. You've just made them angry by crashing into them at 100 kilometers an hour.
Yeah, that's terrifying stuff.
Travel during the day, you'll be fine.
Yeah. I'm seeing that a couple of your videos are doing quite well on the recent ones, like the cable modem. Did you expect a
Not
cable modem to be
No way.
popular?
That one got almost twice as much as an average video for views, and I did not expect that at all, especially for something that I literally found in the wet grass under a tree on the side of a road when I was walking the dog.
It sounded too good to be true, but if you look at the condition, like it's clearly been outdoors for a while.
Yeah, and even after cleaning it by running it under the tap with a scrub brush, there was still gravel in nooks and crannies of it. It was, I don't know how long that thing was out there for, but that was fun to tear apart, and apparently it struck a chord with people. I still don't understand why that particular teardown got so many more views than the other ones, but I guess if I understood it, I'd be a full-time YouTuber by now.
I can't explain it either because I watched the whole damn thing and I don't give a crap about cable modems. But I don't know. Maybe we're getting out of it what you get out of it. It's just curiosity and seeing, how it
Yeah.
works on the inside or whatever.
And yeah, and that, I mean, that's what I title the teardown videos, but that's really honestly what I'm getting out of it is just the curiosity of seeing what's inside this common everyday thing, or in some cases, a piece of equipment from work that's obsolete. It's
I have
just
to tell you,
something you never take apart or nobody ever sees inside.
I have to do a few of these teardowns, the curiosity ones, because I am like literally, I know people are going to laugh, haha, but I'm literally like, I have a pile of stuff here that needs to be taken apart or thrown out, and I'd rather take it apart before throwing it out. So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to do that.
A lot of this stuff that I've torn down does just end up, I mean, if it's got a metal case, I'll strip it apart and recycle anything that I can, but it it ends up either in my, well, maybe I can steal parts off that if I need to repair something, or it goes into the electronics recycling, and it's just easier when it's in bare circuit boards rather than, encased in wood and aluminum and whatever else.
Have you actually salvaged parts from any of your curiosity teardowns, or for the most part they're too commercial and the parts are too small or whatever?
I've grabbed, I've got a power transformer out of one of them that I use occasionally when I need to test like a rectifier or something like that. I've stolen a couple of capacitors off them. I've grabbed a bunch of inductors, switches, things like that, plugs and connectors, but not a lot of actual components. I think I pulled a weird shaped LED off one thing once to replace an LED in something else that got mechanically damaged. But yeah, it's rare, and I don't do nearly as much repairing as I used to in previous careers. But that's that's partly just because I don't have the time for it either.
I mean, fair enough. But I still will put you to task. When are we going to see more train stuff? Because just before you answer, it's like some of your most popular videos are your train setup stuff.
Yeah, and occasionally I get people in the comments asking about that as well. And right now, the railroad is acting as a horizontal surface, unfortunately.
It's terrible, huh?
But I don't know. I I hope to get back to it eventually. I mentioned a couple of times that I'm really old. I'm a few years from getting my pension at work, so when that happens, realistically, I'll have a lot more time on my hands, and I'll be able to call myself a full time YouTuber, even if I'm not making money off it. But at that point, I'm expecting to again have more time on my hands because the model railroad projects, to do them properly, take a lot of time. You're waiting for paint to dry and glue to dry and all that kind of things, and it's it's an enjoyable hobby. It's a relaxing hobby. It consumes a lot of time, but hobbies are supposed to do that too. They're supposed to fill your time, and it is something that you want to do when you've got a lot more time available to you. And I think that's where it's gone right now. I was quite active in it before the kids were born, and then when they were sort of acting more independently, I had a bit more time again, and it's just sort of ebbed and flowed. And then work gets stupid. The guy that was on call last week had 30 hours of overtime out of that. So
It's yeah, it's good and it's bad, right? So you're making a little bit more money, but at the same time, I mean, you only really live once.
yeah, yeah, and I mean, I've got enough supplies here, I think, to do everything that I wanted to do in model railroading. Um, but it will probably show up on the channel again, more likely if it's a project where I can mix some electronic interest and the models as well. So maybe some animated signs for buildings, things like that. Maybe a lighting project in a building. But right now, I'm actually having a little bit of trouble thinking of projects that would hit both interests.
Yeah, like well, maybe like a traffic light system because you could
Yeah.
start small with single traffic lights, add other stuff like detecting trains to trigger the railroad crossing things, and then I mean, you can expand as big as you want. You can have a Raspberry Pi end up, sort
Oh
of
yeah.
orchestrating the whole thing if you want to go that nuts. I mean, the sky's the limit, I think.
Yeah, or sound effects as well. Yeah, there's all
True.
manner of things. Some of the old timers, back in 70s and before that, had automated lighting systems in the room that followed the railroad clock. So it would dim down in the evening and the lights in the buildings would come up and all the rest of that. And that was all done on mechanical cam switches and timers and things.
And today
So
there's like literally no excuse because I
it's easy.
mean, yeah, you have the computing power of, you know,
I think
like
a single
80.
Arduino could handle that entire process.
Absolutely. Cause yeah, like even a Raspberry Pi, it's like 100 times what the Apollo astronauts had to get to the moon. Like it's ridiculous.
Yeah. And I'd like to get into working more with the Raspberry Pis. I've got 2 or 3 versions of those around here. That's more of a software based project, and I'd like to spend time on that. But again, that's the learning part of that before I get to the point where I've got something that's worth showing on video is a fairly lengthy process, at least for me, because I'm not very skilled at programming. I've been working on it in the background a little bit, but it's and there's a million and one facets to these hobbies, and everybody takes them in different directions, which is the great thing about it.
Or like me, just take them in all different directions at once and then end up with like no like solid thing to show for it.
Yeah, going madly off in all directions.
Yeah,
I,
that's
I
basically it.
I feel like that sometimes too.
So did you did answer my question when you did the Q&A thing. But you kind of skipped over I added more complexity to it and you did it a little bit simpler. I asked you if you had a tool, an expensive one and a cheaper one. Which one, would you want? And you went with the expensive route. You talked about your
Oscilloscope, yeah.
scope. Yeah, your scope is analog. It's very neat scope, but maybe you would want to upgrade, which might be possible. Hint, hint,
I've,
through some
I've been
sponsors.
I've been poking at them.
But what about for something small? Is there something small missing from your shop that you kind of you can't really justify the cost of that specific tool? Like I don't know if you do this, but I do it all the time where I'm like, like I don't know, like a riv nut installer would be nice. It's not that expensive. I just don't need it right now. Do you have anything like that?
Yeah, those are interesting, but I don't tend to do projects that go in metal cases, so I don't really see the I've got heat set inserts if I'm going to put things into plastic cases. I'm just Yeah, there's a reason I didn't answer that question. I couldn't think of anything off the top of my head because I'm a bit of a junkie for small, cheap tools.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's fair enough.
I'm not sure. You don't usually see it in the background of the shots, but just above the animated sign on my workbench, there's a whole bunch. There's like a 3-tiered thing that I built full of cheap tools that I bought from Princess Auto over the years, and multiples of them. So yeah, I don't ration myself too much on cheap tools. It's the expensive ones that I can't see myself showing out the money for usually. Um, I've been sort of looking for a set of wrenches and whatnot to put in my garage, and I just keep not buying them because, like, yeah, that would be useful, but it's I don't know. But
Most professionals, uh, in my profession at least, they get, Snap On and Mac or whatever, and you're talking about $300 for a set of wrenches. But honestly, I've been using my same Mastercraft, which is a Canadian Tire brand here. The set I bought when I was a fresh apprentice, I'm still using the exact same set. So I would recommend not to spend too much money on things like that for sure.
oh, and that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm watching the Canadian Tire Flyer and the Princess Auto Flyer and the farm shop flyers, and waiting for things to go on sale. I've picked up a couple of things, but nothing huge, and I'm not in a hurry for it either. That's the other thing. I do tend to be fairly patient with my purchases, and I'm willing to wait 6 months to find a good deal. So
Me too, sort of. Not all the time though. It depends what it is. Um, like for example, well, I've been sort of under pressure to make videos for the month of May when we're recording this,
mm-hmm.
and kind of the only thing that's been sort of easing my stress is shopping. I love the thrill of the hunt, for example. So even though I can't afford it, I've been looking up kayaks because I would love to be on the water, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
so every single day, multiple times a day, I'm on Kijiji, which is our Craigslist. I'm on Amazon, and that kind of like tickles a part of me that calms me. So
Yeah. I'll spend a lot of time wandering through stores when I've got the time to do it, especially the places that I've mentioned 6 times already. Um, but I don't walk out of there with something until it's a screaming clearance deal or something like that, or I'm desperate and I really need it.
oh yeah, for sure.
So it frustrates my wife at Christmas time or going into Christmas time. I'll walk through 50 stores without an idea of what I'm going to buy, without buying anything. And then on the last day, like after doing that for weeks, on the last day, I'll just go back and blitz and hit all the places that I found something that tickled my fancy and buy everything in one day. And it just frustrates her. It's like, are you finished your Christmas shopping yet? Nope. I'm still looking.
God, I for some reason, if it's not something that's like a brain worm for me, I hate shopping. I can't. I think basically I was a little bit antisocial pre-pandemic, but post-pandemic or whatever we are now, it's gotten so bad. I would rather order everything online than go into physical stores. People just annoy the crap out of me.
Yeah, well, there's still not that many people out there yet, so it's not so bad. But yeah, it's I don't know. I treat it more as like hunter gatherer mode than actual shopping.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. But I'm like, if your store has a crappy online, like a crappy website where I can't browse your products, I probably won't buy from your store type thing. Like I'm at that point where I don't want to do I don't want to do the wandering inside and looking at what I want. I want to go in, grab what I want and leave type thing.
Yeah, different styles for different people.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. But I'm like glued, because when you don't have the money to spend, or in your case, more likely when you don't want to spend too much. I mean, I've got my eyes glued to the. I have an app on my phone where I get all the flyers in one spot. I check Kijiji a lot. I check Amazon a lot. So it's all under the same pretenses, right? We're all doing the same thing, but probably for different reasons.
Yeah, yeah,
So what's coming down the pipe? What can we expect? I guess not in June because that's a little bit further when this will air. But what are the the videos coming down for you and I, and then people would have already seen?
yeah. I don't plan that far ahead. I've got a couple of pages of in a book of just like really short ideas that might turn into a video eventually, but there's no schedule beside them. It's just like often just a couple of words to trigger my memory and make me think about things again. Um, yeah, I generally only have my videos planned like a couple of days ahead of when I record them. So
Wow.
I don't know which idea I'm going to choose for the week after the week that I'm going to be recording usually. I know I've got this one that I was talking about earlier with these miniature stage lights. Um, and right after that, I'll record a Mailbag Monday because that fits into the schedule, but I don't know what the next one's going to be. Maybe a teardown. Um, I try not to do the same theme every week. I try and split it up between 3 or 4 different themes. A teardown, maybe a small project, an exploration of something that I've gotten or some component, um, or yeah, those 3 themes sort of rotate around again and again and again, and it'll also depend a little bit on what shows up in the mailbags because those often trigger me to go in a different direction sometimes. Like that alcohol sensor video that I did recently, that was just a spur of the moment pretty much. I spent more time assembling the test circuit on the breadboard than I did actually planning the video, and it may show. I'm not sure, but
The it was disappointing that that thing didn't work.
yeah,
Like,
maybe I just needed to be drunker.
I mean, I guess attempt number two, the only ethical thing to do would be to get drunker.
Well, yeah, you have to replicate your results if you're doing science, right? You can't just try once.
I do also have an alcohol sensor, the whatever, the MH10, the Arduino E1.
Right.
And so maybe it would help if you had another data point, someone else, let's say a province over.
Oh, there you go.
So
Absolutely.
we could try that. But I these days I only drink during live streams, so it's gonna have to be a live stream at some point, and then and then yeah,
Yeah.
that might
And
be bad because there might be some encouragement from the crowd.
yeah, I own, and that bottle of Screech that I drank, that was, like I said, 1.75 ounces. So it's basically a double shot. So that's not enough to get a person over zero point zero 0.08, at least not somebody who weighs north of 200 pounds like me. Um,
Ooh,
I don't,
that used to be me. It's no
yeah,
longer me.
yeah, I'd have to follow it up with a couple more miniature bottles of something, but that would start getting pretty weird near the end of the video, I think, if I was drinking that much that fast. So that's partly why I avoided going down that route.
So what about live streams then? Because I maintain that live streams is the most fun part of YouTube, and by the time people have seen this, I've done one or two already, and I'm gonna keep it up. Um, why don't we see Pile of Stuff live?
I very seldom watch live streams, and I don't know. I find a lot of the live streams that I have watched, there's so much downtime in there that would have been edited out in a regular video that I don't know. I don't find it as interesting. I know a lot of the action happens in the chat, and I don't know, for whatever reason, I just don't get into that. I'm not sure what it says about me, but that's I may do it. I have been slowly accumulating the hardware that would support a live stream, but I still don't know if I feel like doing one, just because I don't find them interesting myself.
And I mean, that's fair enough. But I will say though, the instant interaction with some of your biggest fans, that's quite cool. And obviously, you probably have something similar on Patreon, like I have Patreon as well. But it's a bit different when they get to, react in full time. Maybe if I could suggest to break the ice, maybe you do a Patreon only live stream. Um,
I was thinking about that. Yeah, Patreon and maybe a few other invited friends. But I yeah, that if I was to do it, that's probably where I would start. But I'm not making any promises. Don't sign up to Patreon just to push me into that, because
do definitely do sign up to Patreon just to push them into that. Just go in with the knowing that it's maybe not going to happen. But I would definitely recommend you sign up to his Patreon just to bug him about it. The way I see it, the commenters are gonna bug you anyway, so they might as well throw a couple bucks into the hat while they do it.
the people that I've got on Patreon are really really good. I think that's everybody says that the people that are willing to go that extra mile and toss a buck into the tip jar are without exception really good people and nice people, and have positive and useful comments, as opposed to some of the people that we have to filter out in the YouTube comments.
Yeah, definitely. I constantly feel like refunding my patrons because I just don't put out enough content, but they never want it. So
Yeah.
there we
Yeah,
go.
I've my Patreon. I've not made any promises. It's labeled as a tip jar. They get the videos a few days early, but I didn't even promise that.
I think I modified mine to say early access because I don't think I'm on such a tight schedule to release the videos that I think it makes sense that I can give them at least 12 to 24 hours on the early access. But at the same time, it's like they're the nicest people. They don't. It feels like they don't care so much about the content. They care more about me, which is a really weird thing to say.
Yeah, for a bunch of familiar strangers,
Yeah,
basically.
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know
And
where I
I'm
heard that term, but I like that term. It it makes sense in a lot of these kind of cases. They're not people that you've met and are likely to ever meet, but they're still familiar.
absolutely. And yeah, I mean, I sent my some of my Patreons some T-shirts for being part of the founding, the founding members of the channel, basically. So that was pretty nice, and yeah, I mean, I sent one out to oh geez, somewhere in the Nordic countries. So I mean, it's so cool to see that there's people around the world that actually care about you know some dude in his basement in Canada.
Yeah, it's when I started getting like the first couple of subscribers way back whenever that was, I just could not believe that people actually cared what I was doing. I was just doing it for fun and to share what I was doing with a couple of other people. But people keep showing up, and I'm surprised and amazed and thankful. And as long as people keep showing up, I'm going to keep doing this.
Well, that's your own fault because you're making good content. And I know you probably don't feel like you specifically are making good content, but I couldn't even tell you why I like watching your videos. I just know if there's a pile of stuff video, I'm watching it. I can't explain it. It's
Yeah.
just good.
And I'm not thinking too hard about why people are showing up either. I'm mostly entertaining myself, and I'm assuming that most of the people that are coming in have similar enough interests to me that they're amused by the same things that are amusing me. I
I
don't know.
feel like that
That's as deep as I get.
That could be true, but the same could be true. Like they could be from completely left field, right? That they're just so intrigued by whatever the hell it is you're doing that it doesn't matter. Like it might be that they're just feeding off what's intriguing you. Basically, your intrigue is making them watch. Maybe, who knows?
Yeah, it's like I said, I don't want to analyze it. I don't want to look too closely just in case it goes away. But uh, it's fun, and I'm going to keep at it. So that's we've wandered a long way from electronics in this
We
podcast so
have,
far, many
and
times.
since you're a repeat guest, I've come up with a different question for people the second time around because this is, it feels it's less formal, and you already answered my, free business question. So this is something I've developed very recently. Um, what do you watch on YouTube that's not electronics? What would you recommend someone watch that's not electronics?
Lately, I've stumbled across some foreigners living in Japan that are doing a lot of travel videos around Japan from an expat to sort of a point of view, which is sort of interesting. There's a cluster of them that sort of show up on each other's channels and have formed a little community of non-Japanese in Japan YouTubers. So that I didn't expect that I would ever be watching that kind of content, but there we are.
I find myself watching all kinds of weird stuff sometimes, so I completely get you.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that.
Earlier today, I was watching a skateboarding video, and I was watching a machinist in Australia fixing parts for a heavy-duty cat bulldozer.
No way. Is it something T?
Um,
The name of the channel.
Cutting Edge Engineering Australia, I think.
Oh, okay, never mind. Because it's Australia. Sorry,
Yeah.
because I was talking to Scott the Deaf Palm, and he was talking about someone doing almost exactly the same thing, but he was a New Zealand YouTuber.
And there was actually a carpenter in New Zealand that I was watching yesterday on YouTube. It's um, my interests are fairly varied, but it's almost, well, except for these travel vlogs, I guess. It's mostly somebody doing stuff with their hands.
Yeah, I
So
watch even more left field than you for sure. Because I've
probably
got yeah.
I'm probably pretty vanilla, but I keep surprising myself with what I watch. Uh, Increasingly musicians as well, like not music videos, but guys like Rob Scallon, who are really good musicians. He's lately been exploring other musicians that use unusual instruments, and I am constantly amazed at how he can walk into some instrument that nobody else has ever used, that this guy invented, and before the end of the video, he's both jamming on it and impressing the guy that invented the thing.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a far cry from electronics for sure.
And
Nice.
yeah, so
And the skateboarding, do you still watch Braille skateboarding?
yeah, and a few of the people that have crossed paths with them as well. There's a guy from Vancouver, I guess White Rock actually, Andy Anderson, who's just an amazing skateboarder. So I've been watching him quite a bit when he shows up on other skateboarding channels as well. But I haven't set foot on a skateboard in probably over 40 years, and my knees aren't going to allow me to do it now. So I'm just living vicariously through these guys.
I still have a skateboard here, and I bet you I could still ollie because it's been only a couple years for me, but I've lost. I've honestly, as of the 20th, or I guess it's May 21st now. Um, I've lost like 40 pounds, so I think it'll be even easier to try again. No, sorry, 30 pounds, not
Yeah.
40.
Yeah, my son's got a skateboard in the garage, but like I said, my knees are just too old and too beat up for that kind of shenanigans these days, unfortunately.
Getting old's not fun, huh?
Nope, it beats the alternatives, I guess.
Well, I go to work in the morning. So, do you have any closing thoughts?
No, this was fun. It was just felt like sitting down and chatting with a friend who I've never actually met in person.
Yeah, and we mutually don't know what each other looks like.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm piecing it together. You got, salt and pepper, more towards salt, hair and beard. You got, I think you got full beard, a little bit longer in the front, I
at,
think.
at the moment, might do
That's
some spring
all.
cleaning,
Yeah, that's all I really know about you so
and I like
far.
beer.
Oh yeah, and you like beer. Well, I know that, but I mean, physically,
Yeah.
that's about it. And in case you're piecing it together with me, probably the biggest hint for me is my height, 5'9", and I'm also I have a full beard all the time. Not
Hmm.
Clive big, but you know.
Yeah, for a while I was racing with Clive, but that just seems disingenuous. So,
Oh, and I mean Clive. I mean he's the man.
yeah.
He's the man for sure. And I'm not losing my hair yet, so that's another positive thing I think that you
Yeah.
can identify me with.
My brother got those genes. I'm nice and furry.
Oh yeah, you didn't lose much hair.
Nope, not yet. My
Nice.
brother my brother's younger than me, and he's had no hair for years.
They say if you still have hair in your mid 30s, you're probably going to have it for a long time. So I've got the receding hairline, like the two little left and right. It's coming. It's
Yep.
coming, getting thinner, but so far still a full head of hair, which is good. Well, all right. Um, I would like everyone that's listening to go check out Kent's channel, Pile of Stuff, in the link in the description. And I want you guys to comment on one of his videos. I mean, any one of his videos, because that's good for the YouTube algorithm. That's for sure. And also because as content creators, sometimes you can feel like you're making content for the void. So it's really nice to know that people are watching and they care about what they watch. So I'd like you to do that and make sure you subscribe. And if you're one of those generous people and you think you can keep up with the awesome crowd that hangs around the Patreon, I want you to go to his Patreon and throw a buck or two in the hat. I don't know what's your lowest tier, a dollar?
Well, it's $1. Yeah.
There we go.
No, I'm not trying to break anybody's bank.
Yeah, I've got a couple tiers. I think the lowest is $2 now because the Patreon fees have gone up in the last 6 months or so, to the point where I think a dollar ends up being like 30 cents or something.
Yeah,
So
I think it's on par with the YouTube channels, or YouTube channel membership, which is also takes a pretty steep cut.
it's about 30% for
Yeah,
memberships.
but
So yeah,
I've
it's
been on
rough.
Patreon long enough that my fees are grandfathered in, or at least some of them are. So it's not the fees aren't hitting me quite as hard. So I am getting most of that money that you're donating.
And that stuff, where does that stuff go? Is that for mailbags or is that
Yeah,
for
no,
beer?
well, about half and half.
Okay. But I mean, you know what though? Since the beer is part of your brand, you can probably write that off your taxes at this point.
I'll have to get a good accountant to do that.
I can. I've done it. I've done it myself this year for like the 2012 for the first time. So I could walk you through it if you need it. But yeah, an accountant probably be the
Especially if I'm
probably
going to
be the
start going to start writing off 52 beers a year.
There we go. All right. So thanks so much, Kent, for taking your time and chatting with me tonight. And I hope you get a subscriber bump. I don't think I think I have a slightly bigger subscriber count than you, but I think you have a bigger audience than I do.
Yeah, it's odd the way that works. It's subscriber number doesn't always turn into viewers every single time, but every channel's different the way that works.
For sure. But here's hoping you get a couple more uses off your affiliate links, or maybe a buck or two thrown into the hat, because every little bit counts when you're a small YouTube channel.
Absolutely.
All right, have a good one. Thank you
Thanks.
guys for listening. We'll catch you on the next one.